Rain tapped softly against the stained glass windows of the chapel. The scent of lilies was overwhelming, thick like grief. Amelia stood beside the closed casket, her hand resting lightly on the polished wood. The face of her husband Thomas had been untouched by the crash. The car had flipped. They said, no other vehicles, no skid marks, no answers. She didn't cry. Not yet. Hours later, after the wake, the last of the murmuring guests departed into the cool dusk, leaving the house dim and hollow. Dishes from the catered meal sat uneaten. Photographs lay stacked on the mantel. Thomas in the garden. Thomas with their dog. Thomas laughing. She turned each frame down one by one. When the door finally clicked shut behind the last condolence, Amelia slumped against it, her breath catching. The sobs came then, violent and broken. She slid to the floor and stayed there, head bowed, arms wrapped around her knees. Time passed unnoticed. Then, knock. Knock. She startled, her head jerked up. Silence returned, but only for a moment. Knock, knock. A glance at her watch. 8:03 p.m. Odd. No one should still be here. The street outside had gone black, the porch light casting long, skeletal shadows from the dead potted plants she'd meant to water weeks ago. She rubbed her eyes with her sleeve and opened the door. Standing there, perfectly still, was a man, tall, slender, with unnaturally pale skin and thin lips that pressed into a reserved smile. His attire looked like something from a museum. Charcoal frock coat, waistcoat of deep crimson, and a silver watch chain that gleamed despite the dark. "Good evening," he said, voice smooth and cold as marble. "Forgive the hour. I'm unable to travel during the day. My name is Lord Calum Draeven. I was a, close friend of your husband." Amelia blinked. "I'm sorry. Who?" "I do not expect you to know me. Thomas and I met long ago, during a time that was difficult for me. He showed me unexpected kindness. I only just learned of his passing. I must pay my respects. I owe him that." She hesitated, still half wrapped in grief. The man's tone held sincerity, but it felt like something more. She couldn't place it. I've had a long day," she said softly. "Can you come back tomorrow?" He shook his head once. "I cannot. The day is closed to me." A long pause. The porch light flickered. "Then please," he said, stepping slightly forward, but not over the threshold. "Allow me 5 minutes, nothing more. Just a moment to honour a man who once saved me." Amelia hesitated. His presence unsettled her, yet something about the way he spoke, calm, almost sorrowful, chipped at her resistance. She stepped aside. "Very well, but just for a moment." Lord Draeven inclined his head, his footsteps silent as he crossed the threshold. She closed the door, and as the latch clicked shut behind him, she would later swear, in the smallest second of silence, she heard the house sigh. The fire had burned low, casting wavering amber shadows against the walls of the sitting room. Amelia poured a second cup of tea, mostly out of habit, and placed it on the table untouched. Lord Draeven hadn't moved far. He stood at the mantel, fingers gently tracing the edge of a photo frame. It was a picture of Thomas, younger, his arm around Amelia, both smiling under a sky the colour of new promise. Draeven bowed his head as he held it. There was a stillness to him, a reverence that felt deeper than mere politeness. "He had the rarest kind of soul," Draeven said at last. one that did not ask for anything in return. When I met him, I was not at my best. He didn't ask questions. He simply extended his hand. Amelia watched him. There was something so sincere in his words, so carefully measured. Her throat tightened again. "I loved him," she said, almost to herself. "He was everything to me, and then just like that, gone. No warning, no explanation, just a call from the police. A twisted frame of metal. I didn't even get to say goodbye." Her eyes welled again, and she covered her face with her hands. "I don't deserve this," she wept. "None of it. He left me with nothing. I can't even pay for his funeral. I'm already in debt, and now this." A silence followed, thick and humming. She looked up abruptly, eyes red. I'm sorry. I don't know why I told you that. I barely even know you." Lord Draeven turned to her, his face etched with understanding, eyes a depthless grey. "Grief," he said softly, "makes strangers feel like old friends. It opens the floodgates we keep sealed, sometimes for years. There is no shame in speaking your truth." He placed the photo gently back onto the mantel. "Thomas saved me," he continued, "in ways I could never repay. But perhaps this is one way I can begin." He stepped forward, his voice never rising, only wrapping around her like velvet. "Tell me, my dear, what is the debt?" She hesitated. The question should have alarmed her, but something about his presence calmed the unease. The house," she said. "Still mortgaged. 200,000. Credit cards, 30,000. And now this funeral, 20. Thomas made the money. I just managed the home. Now I'm left with nothing. Nothing but his debts." Lord Draeven's smile was gentle, almost mournful. "Please, do not place blame on Thomas. He was a good man. He did not choose this end." He reached inside his coat with slow, deliberate motion and drew out something that seemed almost absurd in the modern age. An ornate checkbook, bound in leather, its edges gilded and worn with age. "They still accept these, do they not?" he said, almost with amusement. He scribbled carefully, each stroke of the pen elegant and assured. Then he tore the cheque free and extended it to her. "Pay to the order of Amelia Hart. Amount £250,000. Signed, Calum Draeven." "I owe Thomas far more than this," he said, holding it out. "I am old, my dear. I have no heirs. My days are numbered, though I may walk them longer than most. What kind of man would I be if I let the wife of my truest friend drown in sorrow and debt?" Amelia stared at the cheque like it was a live serpent. I can't accept this. It's too much. I don't even know you." "But Thomas knew me. That is enough." She trembled, torn between pride and desperation. Eventually, with shaking fingers, she took the cheque. Lord Draeven reached once more into his coat and produced a card, heavy, cream-coloured, embossed with gold and sealed with wax. There was no address, only a name and a sigil that looked ancient, like something from a forgotten empire. "Calum Draeven, for when the night offers no answers." "Call on me for anything," he said. "I am at your disposal." And with that, he stepped back toward the door, his coat sweeping like smoke behind him. No sound of footsteps, no chill from the night, just silence. The door closed gently, and for a long moment, Amelia stood alone, richer than she'd been that morning, and yet somehow more hollow. On the outside, Draeven Manor stood like a relic from a forgotten age, majestic, untouched. Iron gates opened without a creak. The garden remained strangely pristine. Ivy crawled the outer stone, but it seemed frozen in place, as if reluctant to mar perfection. Inside what was rot. A dust blanketed every surface. Cobwebs clung to chandeliers like grey lace. Wallpaper hung in curling strips. The once grand rooms were now brittle with age and abandonment. Furniture sagged with time. Mirrors were fogged and cracked. The hearth was long dead. But one room, though no cleaner, still felt watched. Lord Calum Draven stood alone in the vast, crumbling drawing-room. At his feet, an old newspaper lay open. Its headline, "Tragic accident claims local man. Police search for clues. No details, no explanation, no survivors." Draven did not look at it. He held something else. A locket, small, gold, and worn smooth by centuries of touch. He opened it gently. Inside was a hand-drawn portrait, not a photograph. A woman, her expression soft, almost sad, eyes filled with memory. He whispered to the image, "Soon, my love. I have finally found you. But we must be cautious. We cannot draw attention, not yet." Days passed. Amelia sat alone in her kitchen, her tea cold. The sun through the window felt dull, drained of warmth. She stared at a neat stack of papers. Funeral bill paid, mortgage cleared, credit cards erased. Every debt settled. But peace had not come. She ignored the phone. Messages from friends went unread. Well-meaning invitations, voices offering comfort. None of it reached her. Only one name filled her thoughts. Draven. She couldn't explain it. Something about his presence lingered, not just in her mind, but in the house, like the scent of old cologne or the echo of a piano chord that never fades. She reached for the thick cream-coloured card. Still no phone number, no address, only gold lettering, Calum Draven. For when the night offers no answers, she whispered, almost without realizing, "There is no one I want to see, but I would like to see you." She placed the card beside the newly signed house deeds. The Georgian home was officially hers now. Built in the 1700s, it was remarkably well preserved. Solid oak beams, heavy doors, stonework untouched by decay. She stared at the paperwork, wondering what secrets an old house like this might keep. Knock, knock. Her breath caught. The room had grown dark again. She checked the clock. 8:03 p.m. She opened the door. Draven stood there, as if conjured by thought alone. Same deep crimson waistcoat, same stillness in his posture. He bowed slightly. "You called, my dear. Is there anything I can assist you with?" She smiled despite herself. "Yes, I wanted to thank you. I was so overwhelmed with Thomas, the debt, everything. I didn't know what I was doing. But you saved me." He gave a slow, graceful nod. "You are most welcome. It brings me comfort to know I could offer something in return for what your husband once gave me." His gaze drifted past her to the table where the deeds sat. "Ah, the house," he said with quiet reverence. "A beautiful structure. Homes from this era often had basements, used during the war or long before that for storage." Amelia raised an eyebrow. "A basement? This house doesn't have one. At least, I don't think it does." Draven smiled faintly, as if amused. "How strange. I've studied these homes for many years. I don't believe I've ever encountered this design without one. May I?" She hesitated, but curiosity outweighed caution. "Of course." He moved with silent grace, his eyes tracing the walls and corners. Near the back hallway, where the plaster had been redone in places, he paused. Gently, he ran his hand along a stretch of wall that seemed different, smoother, firmer. He tapped. Thud, thud, clink. Stone behind plaster, bricks, not foundation, something sealed. He turned to her, eyes glinting like moonlight on still water. Bricked over, he said softly. You see? This is where the stairwell would have been. Hidden now. Forgotten. But not gone. A shiver ran down her spine. Why would anyone brick up a basement? Draeven's smile did not reach his eyes. Sometimes things below are best left undisturbed. Why would it be hidden? Amelia asked, her voice low, uncertain. Draeven smiled, a flicker of something ancient behind his eyes. Would you like to find out? There was a beat. Then, for the first time in what felt like years, Amelia smiled, truly smiled. A flush of anticipation bloomed in her chest, unfamiliar and thrilling. Something had shifted. For weeks, she'd felt like a ghost drifting through her own life, but now she felt alive. Should we? Isn't it a bit late? Draeven slipped off his jacket with a graceful motion, his shirt pristine beneath. His pale skin glinted like marble under the low light. Nonsense, he said with calm confidence. I'm a bit of an expert at this sort of thing. Amelia returned moments later with a few old tools, hammer, chisel, crowbar, from the shed. She expected him to struggle, but he didn't. Where it would take a man minutes, hours, to chip through the thick brick, Draeven needed only one strike. The hammer collided with the wall, and bricks shattered as though they were paper. His arms moved with silent strength, unearthly and sure. Within moments, he had carved out a hole large enough for a grown man to walk through. The air that spilled out was cold, older than the house itself. Come, my dear, he said softly. They stepped into the dark. She switched on her phone torch. The light caught Draeven's face, eyes wide, lips parted in reverent joy. He looked like a man on the edge of completing a life's work. The steps were steep, stone, worn by time. They descended into the earth, deeper than a normal cellar should go. At the bottom, a single small room. Dust hung in the air like mist. Rats and insects had long since abandoned the space. In the center, a box, a large blackened coffin. Amelia froze. What is that? Draeven said nothing. He stepped forward, his hand brushing the lid with something close to tenderness. Then, in one violent motion, he ripped it off. The heavy wood soared and crashed into the wall like paper in a storm. Inside, bones, the remains of a woman, curled, skeletal, long black hair still clinging to fragments of a skull. Her dress was shredded velvet, stuck to her body like faded shadow. Draeven whispered, "At last." Amelia stepped closer, her voice trembling. "Who is it?" He didn't look at her. It is she who was hidden, she who was tormented, trapped, starved. She who was one of us, betrayed by a servant, walled in, left to suffer the eternal hunger. She who was taken from me, so very long ago. Amelia's heart thudded. Wait, you said you came for Thomas, that he saved you. He turned to her then, slowly, eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. He did, my dear. He helped me find you. She blinked, confused. I don't understand. Draeven stepped forward, closing the space between them. It was I who caused the crash. I made him swerve. I needed you. He led me here. He brought me home. The chill of the crypt crept into her bones. You killed him? Draeven's eyes softened, almost mournful. He sacrificed his life. For this, for her, for what must be. Before she could scream, before her legs could move, his hands gripped her, cold, steel. Fangs like ivory daggers sank into her neck. Pain, blinding, ecstatic. He drained her fast. The blood poured, thick and dark, onto the bones of the woman in the coffin. Draeven whispered, "Drink, my love. I have found you. You no longer need to hide." Amelia's lifeless body dropped to the ground with a hollow thud. Inside the coffin, the bones began to shift. The air thickened. Her skin returned, pale and perfect. Eyes opened, black as night, endless as time. She sat up, lips cracked. "Draeven," she rasped. "They tricked me. I couldn't reach you." He knelt beside her, taking her hand. "No, but I have reached you, my love. After all this time, I have brought you back." She smiled, and it was terrible. Together they rose, and two ancient things, two monsters of dusk and dust. Hand in hand, they climbed the steps. The world above waited, unaware, and into the dark night they vanished.